Grace and peace from Grace Church on the Hill in Toronto, and welcome to the next in our series of conversations with parishioners here at Grace Church. We're just been under lockdown for over 3 months now, and we felt it would just be good to talk to some of our people and say, you know, how are you coping? How has it been for you? What have you experienced? And also, how is this experience, anomalous experience, impacting your faith journey and what's going on? So I'd like to just welcome Alban, who's one of our parishioners. Alban's originally from South Africa. He's been in Canada since 2016 and part of our community. He's better than a lot of Canadians. He speaks French and English fluently, so it's been a hard time, I'm sure, for him to be away from his family in South Africa, and also his life here is, like all our lives, has been upended the routine. So nice to have you here tonight.
Thanks for having me
Alban,
here.
And just let me ask, you know, you're a working man. How have you experienced the last few months of lockdown? What's it been like for you?
Yes, it's been very interesting. Initially I was depressed, I'll be perfectly honest about it. And afterwards I had to come up with a new schedule. Exercise was a very big part of it. Mm-hmm. And I found that once I started exercising and, sorting out a proper routine at home, I was able to become productive again in my job, which obviously was great. I've done a lot of cooking and running during that time. Of course, the weather has improved. In fact, today, I would say it feels like 27 degrees outside and very humid too. So that certainly helped in terms of staying healthy, staying active. I have certainly tried to catch up with old, long-lost friends whom I haven't spoken with in months on the phone. It's the only way we can catch up these days. Yeah. Another thing that I've also done is I've tried to actually learn Canadian history. Something I've never done before. So I followed this course that the CBC did for Canada's 150th birthday. It's a 15-hour course, obviously not all in one go, but it's a number of TV shows and you watch them one by one. So I was able to do that just because I had all this time. Yeah.
And work, I mean, you used to go to the office. I guess you're working from home these days.
Yeah, working from home, it's been interesting, and I would say it's actually, net, it's actually been a good thing, just for the fact that, when you're in the office is fun, right? There are many people, there's this great sense of community, but there's a lot of stuff that could get done that doesn't get done. However, when it is you versus the computer, you find that you actually have more time to just focus, and there isn't this social club kind of feeling around 10 o'clock in the morning at the water cooler. Right. Productivity-wise, it's actually, I would say it's better than it's ever been. But of course, I do understand that you have many of the stores and the coffee shops in the path that need workers to return so that their businesses can stay open.
Right. So you miss the social buzz.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Productivity is good, but the social aspect of it is missed.
Right. And do you find that's true with your friends as well? Their mood is kind of going. Yeah.
I mean, in the beginning, it was quite tough for everyone because no one knew when this thing would end. I mean, now we have a better understanding, but certainly back then it almost felt like the end of the world, like the sky was falling. But as the weather has improved, as they've gotten into routines, and as parts of the lockdown have been gradually lifted, I would say that things have improved for them as well. And recently we've been able to have, I think it's now gatherings of around 5 people or something like that. We had a dinner party, when was it, last week, Friday? Made my aunt's renowned pumpkin pie. Certainly for friends, it has been tough as well, but with the improvement in weather and the gradual lifting of the lockdown, things have improved.
And been on Skype and
Skype and telephone
in South Africa.
Yeah, there we go. Skype and WhatsApp. I wouldn't say telephone. I mean, that's just too pricey on Rogers these days.
What are they experiencing in South Africa? How's the curve there?
It's been rough. I mean, look, in terms of the curve, South Africa was able to flatten that curve much sooner than Canada. They locked down around the same time as Canada, give or take a few days, but the difference is that in Canada, the first patient arrived around January 21st. In South Africa, it was March the 4th. So, it was much faster in South Africa, but at the same time, there has been a proliferation of poor people. It's very distressing to see, especially since one is simply not able to help every single person in need. But one of the things that has been encouraging, and I can say that my family have done this because certainly my parents are quite old. It's not the kind of thing that my siblings would necessarily take to, but a number of friends, what they've done is that they've gotten involved with many of the school children who are now missing free lunches at school. Many of those kids do not have meals at home. So to prevent them from starving, a few of my friends started going into areas, into at-risk areas, making a few sandwiches, so taking in bags of sandwiches, an apple, and I think I want to say a Coke. Yeah, it's a Coke. I mean, not that it's especially healthy, but it does provide nutrition to these kids. And what a few of the companies, what the local companies have done as well, initially they were making around 100 of these. Obviously, there are thousands of kids in need. And then a few of the local companies, they got involved. And now 4 friends of mine are feeding 800 people. So it has been encouraging to see this kind of thing happening. And in my view as well, when you look at times of crises such as this, they certainly bring out the best in people. They also bring out the worst, but I've seen the best being brought out in people as well.
And that's often a response of their inherent faith. So I'm just wondering how this experience, you're part of this parish, and we all gather together and worship on Sundays, but we can't do that anymore. We haven't been able to do that. What's been the impact on your own faith journey, just being isolated?
Yeah, so it has been difficult as well. It's been tricky just because in the past, well, if you can have in-contact worship, it's almost easy enough to outsource your faith journey. Of course, now that is impossible, right? So I've been quite deliberate in terms of making time for what I would call my quiet time, not every day, but let's say 4 to 5 days a week. In terms of the devotionals. In the evenings I'll listen to contemporary Christian music. In the mornings I'll listen to organ music when I'm studying, not studying, rather training. That's on YouTube.
Yeah. So you do that when you're fitness?
Oh, absolutely. As far as I'm concerned, there are 3 instruments that are the greatest instruments ever created. You have the synthesizer. I'm a child of the 80s. You have the electric guitar and the organ. All 3 instruments, I would say, get me fired up.
Do you find you're finding enough nourishment to sustain your faith journeys? For some people, it's deepened their journey because it's taken away the supports. And
yeah, so that's a very tough question. I wouldn't know how to answer. I would say that I'm certainly where I need to be in terms of my faith journey. But I miss community. I definitely do. I mean, I've had this argument with my parents so many times. I mean, they say that as senior citizens, the churches shouldn't reopen until it's safe to do so. And I say, well, there are many people who, might be alone for all sorts of reasons, and for whom these 90 minutes every Sunday would be the only community they ever get, right? So, faith journey, good, but I miss community.
Yes. I think we all do. And it's not until it's taken away and removed that you realize just how important that fabric is.
Exactly. It's huge.
Well, thank you for chatting about life in these times, and
thanks for having me.
Thank you for what you bring to Grace. Thanks to Alban for sharing his thoughts with us today. Grace and peace to you.